There's a certain kind of silence that falls between a husband and wife after decades together. It's not cold, not angry, just quiet. A kind of quiet that settles in when one of them feels distant, not because they want to be, but because something inside them has gone dim. He still loves her, still wants to hold her, but his body doesn't rise the way it used to. His hands hesitate, his energy fades before evening, and eventually, he stops reaching for her altogether. I remember a man, maybe in his early 70s, a quiet type, Vietnam veteran. He looked down when he spoke. He said, "Doc, I still want to be close, but I don't know what's wrong with me." There was no shame in his voice, just sorrow. I've sat across from men like him for over 4 decades. Retired linemen, bricklayers, accountants, grandfathers. They've built houses, built families, built lives, and somewhere along the way, their bodies began to whisper, "I can't keep up." But here's the thing. That whisper isn't always the voice of age. Sometimes it's the body simply lacking what it needs, quietly calling out for support it used to have in abundance. I'm Dr. Thomas Leighton, and I've spent my life walking alongside men who feel like they've lost their spark. Often, what they're missing isn't love or even desire. It's circulation, energy, and hormone balance. And believe it or not, that restoration doesn't begin in a pharmacy. It often starts in the simplest place, the kitchen. If you've been feeling tired for no reason, if your strength seems to drain too fast, if intimacy feels further away than it used to be, this may speak to you. And if it does, I invite you, gently, to type 1. If you're not sure yet, type 0. Either way, thank you for listening. Let's begin with something your body once made naturally, something sunlight used to give you freely. But now, for many men, it's almost vanished. Vitamin D. It's often called the sunshine vitamin, but that name hardly does it justice. For men over 60, I think of it as the foundation of vitality. Years ago, I met a man named Paul. He was 67, married over 40 years, still sharp as a tack. He said, "Doc, I haven't lost the want. I've just lost the response. It's like the wires are there, but the current's gone." He wasn't broken. He wasn't failing. His body had simply run low on something essential. Vitamin D plays a powerful role in helping blood vessels relax and open. It's like the green light that lets your blood flow freely, not just to your brain or legs, but to the parts of you that make connection possible. Without it, circulation slows, energy drops. Desire may still be there, but the performance slips. And the worst part? You might never know why. I've seen men who jog every morning, eat clean, even meditate still come in saying, "Why do I feel so off?" In many of those cases, a simple blood test revealed the answer. They were running low on vitamin D. And with that, their ability to produce nitric oxide, the molecule that drives blood flow, was fading too. It's not just about the bedroom. It's about energy, confidence, and feeling like your body is ready to rise when life calls on it. Now, the fix here isn't magic. Sometimes, just 15 minutes of morning sun can help. Foods like salmon, tuna, fortified milk, a simple D3 supplement. I've seen men feel lighter, stronger, even more mentally clear just from bringing this one nutrient back into balance. But vitamin D alone won't carry the whole load. Circulation matters, yes, but without the fuel to power that flow, it's like having open roads and no gas in the tank. And that brings us to the second piece of the puzzle. There was a man named Robert, 72, retired firefighter, proud grandfather of 5. He sat in my office and said, "Doc, I sleep enough, I eat right, but it's like I'm dragging 100 pounds all day." His body was well cared for, but he was exhausted, and not just physically, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually. That's when I looked at his labs and saw it clear as day he was deficient in vitamin B12. You see, B12 is your body's energy translator. It takes the food you eat and turns it into motion, clarity, stamina. Without it, you might as well be pouring gasoline into a sealed tank. The older we get, the harder it becomes for our bodies to absorb B12 from food alone. Even if you're eating beef, eggs, or dairy, your stomach's ability to extract B12 quietly declines with age. That's why men like Robert, good men doing everything right, still feel like they're walking through fog. When your B12 is low, red blood cell production slows, and that means less oxygen moving to your muscles, your mind, and yes, to the parts of you tied to manhood. Some men tell me it's like a light went out. But when we restore that B12, the right kind, in the right dose, that light flickers back on. I've seen it again and again. They stop dozing off after lunch. They want to walk, to laugh, to sit close to their wife without feeling drained. It's not a miracle. It's biology working as it's meant to. Now, if you're finding this helpful, or even if something inside you is starting to feel curious again, I'd be honored if you'd consider subscribing. That way, you won't miss future messages made just for men walking this road. Let's keep going. Because while circulation and energy are vital, they're not the whole picture. Your body also needs protection. Something to guard the delicate systems that keep you feeling strong, vital, and connected. And for that, we turn to a vitamin. Most folks overlook one that quietly supports your testosterone, your blood vessels, and the fire in your chest that says, "I'm still here." His name was James, 70 years old, retired pilot, sharp eyes, still upright and proud, but something about him looked dimmed. He sat across from me one afternoon and said, "Doc, I'm eating right. I'm exercising. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to, but I still feel off. My drive's gone. I'm not bouncing back like I used to. And honestly," he paused, "I just don't feel like a man anymore." I remember feeling the weight of his words. Because James wasn't making excuses. He wasn't being dramatic. He was just telling the quiet truth that so many men carry but rarely say aloud. He was missing something. Not grit, not willpower. Something quieter. Something inside his bloodstream, his cells. Something called vitamin E. Most people think of vitamin E as something women take for skin or pregnancy. But for men like James, especially those of us in our 60s and beyond, it can mean the difference between fading away and staying fully alive. Vitamin E is what we call an antioxidant. But that's just a scientific way of saying it protects you. It protects your blood vessels from inflammation, your testosterone from crashing, your energy from sputtering out too soon. As we get older, the damage to our bodies isn't loud. It builds slowly, like rust on old pipes. Inflammation, oxidative stress, tiny breakdowns in the systems that used to work without thought. Vitamin E helps fight that quiet corrosion. It keeps the blood moving, keeps testosterone flowing, keeps the parts of you that feel and function like a man from breaking down too early. When I suggested James add more vitamin E almonds, sunflower seeds, a bit of olive oil, even a quality supplement, he didn't expect much. But a few months later, he walked back into my office, smiling. Not bouncing off the walls like some infomercial, just settled, alive, present. The way a man feels when his body matches the dignity of his spirit again. He said, "I didn't even realize how far I'd drifted until I came back to myself." And that's the beauty of these nutrients. They don't change who you are. They help you return to who you are. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. You might be wondering, can these three vitamins work together? Could they form something stronger than the sum of their parts? The answer, in my experience, is yes, absolutely. Years ago, I had a patient named Walter. He was 68, retired high school coach, the kind of man who stayed active, stayed sharp, and had always prided himself on knowing his body. He'd been taking vitamin D on his own for a while, added B12 after reading something online. Then came to me when things still felt off. I suggested he also consider adding vitamin E. Now here's what happened. 2 months later, he came back to see me. Saturday down. Grinned like a teenager and said, "Doc, I don't know what you did, but I feel like I've got a new engine." That's not marketing. That's synergy. You see, when you support your body with all three vitamin D, vitamin B12, and vitamin E, something shifts. Vitamin D improves circulation by helping your body produce nitric oxide. That gets the blood flowing. Vitamin B12 boosts red blood cell production so the oxygen gets where it needs to go, especially in your muscles and mind. Vitamin E protects those vessels, reduces inflammation, and supports testosterone, the very fuel that drives performance, mood, even purpose. Individually, each vitamin matters, but together, they form what I call the vitality triangle. Circulation, energy, and hormonal support working in harmony. For men over 60, that harmony is everything, because our bodies don't bounce back like they used to. Recovery takes longer. Nutrient absorption slows. And one missing link, just one, can throw the whole system out of tune. But when you restore those three, something wakes up. You may find yourself rising earlier, thinking clearer, laughing more, even leaning into your partner again, not because you're trying to perform, but because you feel present. That's what Walter discovered, and he wasn't the only one. But here's the part that's easy to miss, and honestly, the reason most men never get to feel that shift. They make one mistake. A mistake I've seen over and over again. I remember a man named Gerald. He came into my office with a plastic grocery bag full of supplements, spread them out across my desk like cards on a table. "Doc," he said, "I've been taking all these for months, but I still feel tired, foggy, and nothing's improving down there. I've heard versions of that story more times than I can count." And usually, the issue isn't that the man isn't trying, it's that he's been given poor tools. The biggest mistake men make, especially in this stage of life, is assuming that all supplements are created equal. They're not. A lot of those cheap bottles you find online or in the discount bin at the drugstore, they may not be doing you any good at all. Here's why. Many of them use synthetic forms. Cheaper, yes, but far harder for the body to absorb, especially an older body. Take B12, for example. Most brands use cyanocobalamin, but as we age, many of us lose the ability to convert that form into something usable. What you need instead is methylcobalamin. It costs a little more, but your body recognizes it immediately. Same goes for vitamin D. The D2 form you often find? Weaker and less bioavailable than D3, which is what your body needs most. And vitamin E? Most synthetic versions don't offer the full spectrum of what your body uses to support testosterone and blood vessel health. It's not just about what you take, it's how you take it. Then there's the rhythm, that quiet, daily consistency your body depends on. Taking a vitamin once a week, or when you remember, it's like watering a plant once a month and wondering why it won't bloom. Your body needs steady support, a rhythm that says, "I'm here, I'm committed." When Gerald made those two simple shifts, higher quality nutrients, taken consistently, something opened up. A month later, he said he was sleeping better, waking up more alert. And his words, not mine, feeling like a man again. Not just in the physical sense, in the present sense. You see, this isn't about chasing youth. It's about claiming vitality right where you are. And that brings us to something men ask me all the time. "Doc, just tell me what to do. I don't need a program. I don't want 100 rules. Just give me something I can follow." I've heard that enough to know we need to keep this simple. So let me walk you through a real-life routine based on a man I worked with named Frank. He was 66, former carpenter, hands still calloused, spirit a little worn. He didn't need overhauls. He needed direction, a steady hand, a rhythm. And together, we built it. And that was it. Frank didn't change his whole life. He didn't move to the mountains or start drinking kale shakes. He just began doing the same ordinary things with a bit more care and with the right support. A glass of water, a walk in the morning sun, a few almonds, a moment of stillness. And that's what I want you to take away. Because if you're anything like the men I've met, the men I've treated, talked with, laughed with, cried with, then I know this. You don't want gimmicks. You want something real, something you can stick with, something that feels honest. And that's what this is. These three vitamins, D, B12, and E, they're not fads. They're not trends. They're tools. Quiet, dependable tools your body once knew how to use and still can. Now, let me pause and tell you something that took me years to understand. This isn't just about fixing symptoms. It's about healing something deeper, your trust in your own body. Because when you're 60, 70, or beyond, and your body starts changing, it can feel like a betrayal. You still want, You still care. But something in your legs, your lungs, your core doesn't answer the call like it used to. And that distance between your desire and your ability, that's where doubt creeps in. It whispers, maybe I'm done, but I'm here to tell you, you're not done. Your body may have slowed down, but it hasn't stopped speaking. It's just speaking more quietly now. And these vitamins help you listen again. Vitamin D opens the pathways. Vitamin B12 fuels the system. Vitamin E protects and balances the whole orchestra. They don't create new desires. They don't turn you into someone you're not. They simply restore your connection to your strength, to your focus, and yes, to the parts of you that still long for closeness and purpose. There's a man I think of often. Name was Ellis, 71, widowed. He came to me not because of fatigue or performance, but because, in his words, I don't feel like I belong in my own life anymore. He said his days felt like copies of each other. No spark, no rhythm. I'm just waiting, Doc, he said, and I don't even know what I'm waiting for. We talked, a long time. And at the end of that visit, I didn't give him a long list, just a quiet plan. D, 3 in the mornings. B, 12 with breakfast. A bit of vitamin E each day from natural foods. A walk. A little sunlight. Nothing forced. A few months later, he sent a letter. I started painting again, it said. I'd forgotten how good it feels to want something. That line stayed with me. Because that's what real health does. It gives you back your wanting. Not just for sex, but for mornings, for movement, for conversation, for yourself. I've seen this kind of reawakening too many times to dismiss it. But I've also seen good men miss it entirely, not because they didn't care, but because no one ever told them how to begin. So here's how. Start with quality. Not every supplement is the same, you know this already. But many men still reach for whatever's cheapest or easiest, and then wonder why nothing changes. Look for methylcobalamin, the right form of B12 your body can absorb. Use vitamin D3, not D2, because it's what your system truly recognizes. And for vitamin E, choose a natural, full-spectrum version, not the synthetic ones that barely move the needle. Second, be consistent. These vitamins aren't firecrackers. They're more like embers. You feed them daily. They build warmth quietly. And one day, you realize the coldness is gone. Your hands move easier. Your thoughts feel clearer. You reach for your partner without hesitation. It's not a miracle. It's a return. The final piece, and maybe the most important, is belief. You have to believe that it's not too late. Because I promise you it isn't. I've had 88-year-old men walk into my clinic, dragging their feet, barely making eye contact, and walk out 6 months later cracking jokes and holding hands with their wives again. Not because they found the fountain of youth, but because they decided to stop disappearing from their own lives. You can make that same decision today. Not loudly, not with some grand promise, but quietly. A glass of water, a handful of seeds, a walk, a breath, a pause. You can say to yourself, I'm not done. I'm just getting started again. And if that speaks to something in you, if it reminds you of who you were or who you want to be again, then maybe share this with someone else who needs to hear it. Maybe a friend, a brother, someone who's been too quiet for too long, or maybe just sit with it yourself. Let it settle into the parts of you that have been holding on. If you'd like more of this kind of reflection, this kind of truth, then I invite you to subscribe. Not for numbers, just to stay connected, to walk this road together. Because this isn't a channel, it's a conversation, one older man to another. And I'm honored to be part of it. I'm Dr. Thomas Leighton. Thank you for listening. Take good care of yourself. And I'll see you again soon.